Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head back to Spain once again for the first time in what feels like a very long time. Now, as I've said on the channel many a time, when it comes to Europe and the winemaking countries, when the winemaking countries try their hand at craft beer, they tend to do a pretty damn good job, and Spain is no exception to that. They do some very good beers these days, and I highly recommend you check out some Spanish craft beer should you get the chance. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is from a brewery that's featured on the channel once before. These guys are still a relatively new addition to the local beer scene, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves over the last few years, and from what I gather, they seem to be best known for their different kinds of IPAs. Now, the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't tried from this brewery before. It's part of a very popular style family, if we can call it that, and it is at the heavier end of the spectrum, in fact. So yeah, I'm quite curious to see what this is going to have in store for us, because I've heard very good things about it. So hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review, like I said, we are going to head to Spain. We're going to head to Madrid, the capital city, right in the centre of the country, and to be specific, we are going to go to the Alcobendas area in the kind of northeast-ish of the city. So that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful OSO Brewing Company. This one is called Big Kahuna. It comes in at 10% ABV, and this one is a triple IPA. I think this is a New England Hazy triple IPA, in fact, as well. So yeah, my first encounter with these guys since 2022, if I'm not mistaken, and the last beer that I did from them was a collaboration with Neon Raptor. I think that was a single or a double IPA, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, first time trying a triple IPA from OSO Brewing Company. But yeah, lots of good breweries in Spain these days. Barcelona over in Catalonia was where a lot of stuff seemed to start in Spain, but now that craft beer bug is spreading to the other cities. So yeah, hopefully we can go and visit these guys at some point, because they've got a bar and a tap room at the brewery, from what I understand. But yeah, the Big Kahuna 10% triple IPA from OSO Brewing Company in Alcobendas, Madrid in Spain. Let's get started and see what we have here. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done involving OSO Brewing Company. Hopefully we can add some more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. But remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Spanish playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but not as often as I would like, because we don't get too many Spanish beers here in Hong Kong, unfortunately. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about OSO Brewing Company then. So OSO Brewing Company are based in Madrid in Spain, and the company was founded back in 2018 by David Ross and Patrick Tuck, who had met 10 years previously during their Erasmus in Spain. So David has a background in corporate affairs, some of which was spent in the food and drink industry, while Patrick worked at Ansbach and Hobday Brewery in London. So apparently since their Erasmus exchange, the two had been desperate to reunite and return to Madrid, and they founded OSO when they did so in 2018. OSO in Spanish is bear, and so this brewery's name is literally Bear Brewing Company. But apparently in the early days they spent 5 weeks selling their first 2 batches of beer in the Via Hermoso market, and this was the first release of the OSO beers to the public. Soon after this though, they opened their La Osacita bar, which means the Little Bear, also the Little Bear Bar, I guess, on Cavabaya in the La Latina area of Madrid. And despite the pandemic, they continued to grow really well, and they ran a crowdfunding campaign to fund the building of their own brewery. So in late 2020, they recruited Joe Gallimore from Garage Brewing in Barcelona to lead their brewing team, and then in early 2022, it was announced that they had successfully raised €1 million to fund a new facility. And when this is complete, it will be able to produce 60,000 litres of beer per month, and they also plans to host a new tap room there. That brewery opened in September of 2024, and it can be found in the Alcobendas area in the north of the city. And from what I understand, the tap room has opened as well, so that is somewhere I do need to go and film an out and about video, so keep your eyes peeled for that at some point in the next couple of years. I do want to go to Madrid, never been to mainland Spain as of yet. But as of April 2025, when we're filming this review, these guys have produced 155 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. I'm not sure how many of those batches or how many of those new beers have been created in their own facility at the moment, but yeah, these guys very well respected these days, and they are praised for their IPAs. But when their brewer worked for Garage over in Barcelona, they are also a very good brewery. I haven't seen their beers for quite a wee while though, but yeah, those guys do some very good stuff too. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about OSO Brewing Company, or Bear Brewing Company as we say. So if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, or you can check out the Untappd page to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. As you can see, you've got this kind of mask on it here. I think looks like a clown mask. I guess maybe Kahuna means clown, not 100% sure, need to brush up on my Spanish of course. But yeah, plain silver top on the can there. This one is 440 millilitres, which is standard in Europe. I actually bought this one out of the brew over in Shungwan on the island. They had a couple of OSO beers, but you know, this was the one that was best bang for your buck. As I say, craft beer, imported craft beer in Hong Kong is expensive, so my attitude is always to go for the best bang for your buck one. But yeah, triple IPA, this one. It doesn't say whether it's New England hazy or not, but it does say that it contains barley, wheat and oats and maltodextrin, so that sounds like it's going to be a New England hazy. But yeah, the hops in this one are Idaho 7 Mosaic, and there's Hyperboost Citra and Hyperboost Mosaic in this one. Hyperboost is a hop oil product. I think it's like quite high lupulin oil content in that one, because you've also got Dynaboost, which I think is a little bit less. But yeah, Idaho 7, Mosaic and Citra, all American hops, all 14% alpha acid. Idaho 7 is going to give you the very soft tropical fruits like, you know, papayas and apricots and stuff, but it's got a fair little bit of mango to it as well. Citra is going to give you quite a bit of peach, lots of mango, and a little bit of a kind of lemon limey character in a New England IPA, and Mosaic is going to give you that big tangerine note, but just a little bit of distinctive earthiness in the back corners of your palate. So yeah, let's get this guy out then and see what we have. I'm very, very curious to try this one. And this beer is fairly fresh from what I understand. Don't know if it has a canned on date. It was, oh yeah, it was brewed in December actually. So we're drinking this one, I'm telling you lies, it was canned in December. So we're drinking this one about 5 months old. I think I've had this one, I bought this just before I went away on holiday. So I think we got this beer in Hong Kong when it was about 3 or 4 months old. So yeah, it's not, probably maybe not in its prime condition, but I'm sure it will still be pretty damn good actually. But yeah, anyway, we've got maybe about 80% of the beer out of the can and into the glass, and I have to say it does look pretty nice. So you can see that this beer has poured with just under a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. It looks pretty damn nice actually. The head on this one, it's kind of, yeah, it's sort of like kind of medium, bigger size bubbles further up, but more medium and fluffy bubbles sitting down there toward the surface of the beer. And colour wise, I would say that this one is more along the lines of like a kind of pineapple juice or something like that. It's actually very, very pale in terms of its colour actually. So yeah, I would say, yeah, kind of a more like pale pineapple sort of juice colour, this one. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do, or any adjuncts you put into the beer, will affect the colour as well. But yeah, you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the IPA style category. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. If we shine the light through it, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England triples that I've come across. I mean, 10% ABV for me is the borderline of what you should call a triple. Some people might argue with that. Do feel free to do that in the comment section below. But yeah, this one I think is not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England triples that I've come across. But remember, the haziness in these beers depends on oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use, and that can vary from beer to beer and brewery to brewery and so on. But yeah, in all honesty, I think we've said everything we really need to about the appearance of this beer. You can see the head has faded away to be a thinner, foamier layer now, just with a bit of a fluffy ring around the edge of the glass. But all in all, I think this beer looks pretty damn nice. So yeah, nothing unexpected about the appearance of this beer when you consider what style it is. Let's go on and have a little look at the aroma then, because I'm very curious about this for sure. Okay, right. Comes across very nicely balanced actually. So as I've often said, when it comes to hazy IPAs, for me there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to the malty and yeasty side of things. You've got the farmhousey yeasty character and the rye leaning grainy side. Those are a bit more common in the New England brewed New England IPAs, because the style started out as a farmhouse IPA. But since the style has moved to other places and evolved, if you like, the focus is a little bit more on wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things these days. It's very, most European brewed New England IPAs focus on those 4 elements for sure. This one for me comes across as being a bit more oaty leaning, but you can detect the wheat and the barley malt in there. It's not too sweet, we can say that straight away from the aroma. But it's got lots of nice kind of tropical fruit to it. Green components quite wet and oily as well, I would say. But yeah, comes across very, very nicely. So let's just break that aroma down and describe it for you more in depth. If you take the aroma in deeply, you do get more of the wheat for sure. But yeah, for me, the backbone of this beer, fresh white bready bread crust for sure. There's little elements of wood and cracker in there. I do get a little bit of like a sweet brown bread in this one, but mostly the malty side of this one is the white bready barley malt, but you can smell a more dense wheaty white bread in there. At the back of the nose you get that little bit of bitiness that you're going to get from the wheat. As I've often said, European wheat is a bit more bitey than North American wheat, which is kind of smoother. So yeah, sweet kind of white bready barley malt bread in there, a more dense wheaty white bready character to this one as well, and then you've got the oaty notes coming out of this beer. I'm actually getting more sweetness out of the malt base too. As I smell it, I'm getting a little bit of that kind of skittlesy thing, and I noticed this one uses a verdant yeast, and I think the verdant yeasts do give you a little bit of that kind of skittles type note. But the oatiness in this one, it comes across, you get a little bit of dryness out of the oats. We have to remember this beer is like four bordering 5 months old at the moment. So essentially with New England IPAs, the oats can be a rough indicator of how fresh your beer is. The fresher the beer is, the creamier the oats are, the older they are, the drier they are. So you can smell the creaminess to the oats, but there's a little bit of the dryness just creeping out there. The skittly notes are coming out within that as well. And there is a little bit of that like Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and a wee bit of biscuit. You'd expect that when this beer is a 10% New Englander, for sure. So yeah, the malt base in this one is nice. It's nothing unexpected, we can safely say that. And the yeasty side of the beer for me at the back of the nose, it's mostly white bready, I would say. So it's got it's got a nice little bit of a white bready character to it. Yeah, sort of white bready, a little bit skittlesy like I said, and then yeah, a little bit white bready, a little bit kind of skittlesy. Wee touch of brown bread to it as well, but it's not overly prominent actually. I think the malty character and the aroma here is a bit more pungent than the yeasty side of things. You can safely say that. But I tell you something, this beer does have quite a big green component to it. So yeah, let's focus on the hoppy part of the beer now. So, as I've often said, when it comes to your IPAs, there are 3 different hopping routes that you can take, if you like, or what's it, 3 different methods of hopping, is that right? Pardon me. Still, anyway, you have early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil. That is responsible for the majority of your bitterness, and it gives you a very deep, dank green component. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place in the last half hour of your wort boil. It gives you a wee bit of bitterness, but mainly flavour and aroma, very bright green component too. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete. That's all about flavour, aroma, and it gives you a very bright green component too. New England IPAs tend to rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why they're kind of softer and more juicy and have brighter green components. West Coast IPAs use all 3, which is why they're deeper, danker, and more oily, if you like. You know, it's chemistry. The longer you make a reaction go, of course, the more you're going to extract the sugars and stuff like this. That's kind of how it goes, because you're basically, it's like column extraction, I remember. But yeah, green component on this one, you get a little touch of earthiness from the mosaic, of course, but the green component in this one is very, very oily, which is, yeah, makes sense when you're using, what was it, Hyper Boost? It's called, yeah, I was going to say hyper oil or whatever, but yeah, Hyper Boost. So your green component in this one is very, very oily. Lots of floral aromaticity, quite a little bit of zesty, grassy character in the front of the nose as well. So yeah, aroma-wise, this one, the green component is really, really quite oily. So yeah, I think that works. So in terms of the, I think that's everything we need to say. In terms of the fruitiness, you're getting kind of everything you'd expect, to be honest. I mean, I'm getting quite a little bit of peach out of this, and that'll be the Citra. So, but the peachy side of the Citra is really coming out in this one quite a lot. I would have expected a lot of mango in this one because of the Idaho 7 and the Citra together, but you can smell a little bit of it, but I'm actually getting more. I think the Idaho 7 is coming out a wee bit more in the aroma, so I'm getting more like passion fruit and apricot and pineapple and stuff, unless the mango smell, maybe it smells a little bit riper. It's maybe coming across as more of a bit of a kind of guava and mixing with the peach a wee bit more. So yeah, it's the mango in there's, yeah, no, the mango in there's just very ripe, but I think the sort of passion fruity and apricot-y and pineapple-y notes, the sort of things that you're going to get more from the Idaho 7, the softer side of it, I think those are just a little bit more prominent in the aroma for me. But I do get quite a little bit of orange out of this one. The tangerine orange from the mosaic is really noticeable in this one, and there's almost just a wee hint of lime mixing with the kind of grassy esters in this beer as well. But certainly, it comes across really nicely. If you take the aroma in kind of deeply, you get a lot of the citrusy side of the fruit coming out of this one. So yeah, take a little bit of time to enjoy that. Did that get soupier and gloopier with the last bit I put in? Maybe just a little bit. But yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it. I think we can finish the aroma section now and go on to the flavour section of the video. So yeah, this one is the Big Kahuna 10% New England Triple IPA from OSO Brewing Company in Alcobendas, if I remember the name of the place right, in the northeast-ish of Madrid, over in Spain. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, salud. Ooh. I'm just going to say to you straight away, this thing is juicy as fuck. This is, it's interesting, this one. So I'll say straight away, it's not the thickest and creamiest of New England IPAs, but it's really smooth, slightly dry into the aftertaste, a little bit bitey from the wheat, but very, very kind of juicy, this one. Yeah, I think this one, just going from the way the flavours are coming out, I feel this one maybe is a bit more barley malt and wheaty leaning, or maybe it's not, as I say, it's not the thickest. I'd be really curious to see the brew sheet with this one and just see what they've done with the malt base here. And I'll tell you something, it builds a little bit of bitterness into the aftertaste too. But yeah, that's a really very solid New England triple from these guys actually, but I will admit I'm quite surprised at how light the body is in this one. But I mean, when you think about it, Spain is of course in the southern part of Europe, pretty warm. Kind of makes sense that they would want their beers to be that little bit lighter and more drinkable. But then again, a 10% triple IPA is more of a kind of sipping beer than a session beer, if you like. So yeah, that's worth bearing in mind too. Yeah, but solid beer from these guys. I really do need to go there and try some of the stuff on tap for sure. But let's do as we always do. We'll break the beer down and describe the flavour for you more in depth. But solid New England triple, this one. We can say that for sure. I tell you something, I love the impact flavour with this one. Just the juiciness you get from the fruits. I'm guessing that's the hyper boost that's in this one. But yeah, let's go to the middle third of the palate with this one. I will say, yeah, this beer is oily as anything. It's oily and very soft and juicy for sure. Finds a really nice balance there. But yeah, middle third of your palate then, the backbone of the beer. You've got that fresh white bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit more of a kind of woody character coming out of this one. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust, a little bit of a woody note to it. Above that, you've got you've got more of a Jacob's cream cracker on top of that as well. Yeah, so yeah, fresh white bready bread crust, a little bit of wood, a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker. On top of that, you have more of you've got a little bit more of a kind of brown bready character as well, but not too much of the brown bread, I would say. But yeah, there is just a little layer of a kind of wholemeal brown bread. Then above that, you've got a very light, sort of airy white bready character from the barley malt. It's not too dry actually. It's slightly wetter, but yeah, very airy, soft white bready character. So yeah. And above that, you get the more dense, wheaty white bready character. And yeah, on that middle third of your palate, further back, of course, it starts to show you a wee bit of bitiness, but further forward, further forward, it shows you some really nice, it shows you a really nice kind of smoothness, if you like, that's for sure. And if you go on top of that, you start to get the oaty side of this beer. So down that middle line of your palate, you get a lovely oaty creaminess out of it. And as you move further out toward the edges of your tongue, yeah, you get a little bit of the drier side of the oats. And you can feel like the sort of Skittlesy note that I was picking up in the aroma. There's not so much of that in the flavour on the middle third of the palate anyway. There's a little bit further back. But yeah, you just get a little tiny hint of that Skittles sort of thing out of this one. In the dead centre of your palate, you can feel the booziness of the beer a little bit. So yeah, in the dead centre of your palate, you do have a wee bit of that kind of sweet. You've got a little bit of that sweeter. You've got a little bit of that sweeter. Kind of Werther's original butter candy, butterscotch flavour, and a wee bit of biscuits around it. And that's the Skittles going to come out there. That's the alcohol coming out of the beer, that's for sure. So that point is definitely there. And I think after that we've covered everything we need to about the middle third of the palate. So let's go to the back third of the palate then. As I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back, and the back third of the palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. The brown bread's in the bottom, the barley malt white bread's in the middle, and the wee bit of wheaty character and bitiness is on top. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got the white bready bread crust in there, the cracker, the brown bready layer is a little bit lighter, taller, more airy, slightly drier too. The same can be said of the white bready layer that sits above that, and then yeah, you've got the more dense, wheaty white bready layer sitting on, the more density of wheaty white bread there sitting on top of it. You get a wee bit more bitiness out of that. Then above everything else, you have the yeasty side of the beer. So yeah, the yeasty side of this one for me, it's let's take another wee sip and just get that. Yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me is, I'd say at its core, it's like a sweet brown bread, and then it's surrounded by a white bread, and it's almost like that white bread is kind of got that skittly, sugary sort of flavour to it. So yeah, and then there's a wee bit of bread crust on the outside. But yeah, into the aftertaste, you will get this, and toward the back of your palate, you'll get this kind of Skittles, whatever type flavour coming out of the beer. So yeah, interesting stuff for sure. Yeah, so I think that's everything we need to say about the malty and yeasty side of the beer. Let's go on to the hoppy side of things then. So, green component in this one. The beer actually shows a little bit more bitterness in its flavour than I thought it was going to. But yeah, back corners of the palate, there's a lovely little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, you get a little bit of pine resin underneath actually. But as you reach the front corners of your palate, it's lovely and kind of more. Yeah, it's lovely and a little bit more kind of oily, but floral aromatic notes and a more grassy, zesty character. Yeah, a more grassy, zesty character just around the front of the tongue there. But yeah, quite oily, I would say. Yeah, it's really, really nice, and a kind of oily green component you get out of this one, but a little bit more bitterness than I thought. But let's go to the front third of your palate then and round off the flavour section by looking at the hoppy and fruity side of the beer. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get the little bit of bready build up, brown bready character, the white bread from the barley malt, and then the denser wheaty notes, and of course the base of the front third of your palate, the bread crust, the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread, and then the more wheaty white bread, very smooth on that front third of your palate, of course. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that. Yeah, so fruity side of this one then, and as I say, the fruity impact flavours that you get off of this beer are really nice, so I'll just cover that quickly. Yeah, when you take this beer in, lots and lots of like juicy mango, bordering on guava actually, but yeah, as the flavour progresses, at the back of that oily bubble, if you like, on top, there's a little bit of peachy flavour, lots of juicy mango underneath. I wasn't picking up so much mango in the aroma as you might remember, but yeah, peach on the top, juicy mango underneath. Then there's a little bit of passion fruit in the base of that. As you move further forward, you get the softer apricots and pineapples, which is probably going to be the Idaho 7. And as you move further forward into the front half of that front third of your tongue, the mosaic starts to show itself. So there's a little bit of like lemony notes just behind the very front tip of the tongue. That'll be the Citra showing its lemony side, which it does in New England IPAs. In West Coast it gives you more of a lychee gooseberry type thing. But yeah, on top of that, of course, you get the big tangerine orangey notes that you would expect from Mosaic. But I think the tropical flavours are a bit longer lasting, to be honest. Yeah, I think you get a bit of the mango in the beginning, the tangerine orange kind of sits there, but I think the tropical flavours, for me at least, sit there a little bit longer than they sit there for me a little bit longer than the more orangey side of things, I would say. So yeah, I think the way this one goes together is really, really nice in that sense. I really like this beer. A slightly more, and the more that I drink of it, the more wheaty leaning I think this one actually becomes. I do get more bitiness and stuff and dryness out of the wheat in this beer. So this beer's really made me think a little bit about it's really made me think a little bit about what's going on. So yeah, I like how this one pieces together actually. Big thumbs up to OSO Brewing Company. It does make me curious to try more of their stuff actually. So yeah, let's round off with the mouthfeel then. So for me, this beer is maybe, I'd say it's like mid-body to top end of mid-body, but it's certainly not the heaviest of New England triples that you're going to come across. IBU wise, I want to say this one is 40, maybe 50 at most. It does give you a little bit more bitterness on the sides of the palate, especially further into the aftertaste. The backbone of the beer, you've got a lovely kind of, yeah, as I say, you get a little bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, a bit of dryness on top. The malt base on this one does show you a fair wee bit of dryness into the aftertaste. It's not the creamiest and smoothest of New England IPAs. And then yeah, the fruity, the juicy fruitiness that you get out of this one for me is the highlight of the beer actually. So yeah, that's what I really like about this one, the way the fruity characters come out, and I'd be curious to know whether that is the hyper boost that's really giving it that big impact juiciness and then the lingering flavours. So yeah, it's quite a light, it's a fairly light bodied, or I should say relatively, it's a relatively fairly light bodied New England triple IPA this one, but with lots of soft juicy fruitiness this one, and quite tropical leaning I would say, but into the aftertaste yeah, you get a little bit more of the citrusy character out of it. But all in all, really nice beer, and it does make me very curious to try more from OSO Brewing Company. So yeah, let's leave it at that one. So yeah, this was the Big Kahuna from OSO Brewing Company in Alcobendas in Madrid in Spain. Been really cool to return to these guys after a couple of years, and very cool to find one of their beers here in Hong Kong as well. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from OSO Brewing Company as well. Do give me some Spanish brewery recommendations as well. I will be travelling to the south of Spain during the summer, so yeah, I'd be very curious to hear your recommendations. But thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out OSO Brewing Company's social media, and I'll see you guys on another review very soon. Ciao just now.